Agile methodologies. So agile methodologies are iterative methodologies of project management and software development. These are called lightweight approaches. They require less documentation and fewer process controls of the more traditional waterfall approaches. They are targeted at small to medium-sized projects. They involve smaller teams of those involved in developing the projects or the products at question. They allow for quick adjustments to changing requirements and customer demands. And they also release software quickly or more quickly than the traditional waterfall approaches. And we'll be talking about this here in a little bit more depth. Agile development works from the proposition that the goal of any software development project is working code. So it's a very practical take on software development. And because the focus is on working software, then the development team should spend most of their time writing code, not writing documents. Kind of this idea against a heavy documentation from the more traditional approaches. Now, this is not without disadvantages, of course, but it's one of the approaches, and so it depends what you want to optimize. This gives these processes the name lightweight, because lightweight, less code, more working directly on producing. I'm sorry, less documentation, more working directly producing code. There's some values and principles that have been suggested for agile development. So this is a list that kind of goes around. You usually often see individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over, meaning instead of comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over or in preference in contrast to contract negotiation, and better responding to change instead of following a strict plan. So this is sometimes called the manifesto values of agile, and you can probably get an idea of the ethos here of this philosophy. Now here's a list. I just put it here to put it on the record. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but you can take a look at it later. The first highest priority, number one, in terms of principles, is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. I think everybody can get behind that, but the agile supposedly gets to it in the most advantageous way. I'll let you be the judge of that. So we welcome changing requirements even late in the development. So this is something that with the traditional waterfall approach is harder to do. Welcome changing requirements. We kind of talked a little bit about that. We want to deliver working software frequently. Business people and developers working together. The more involvement of the business part of the project, of the stakeholders, rather than just the computer engineers. Build projects around motivated individuals. The most efficient and effective method of conveying information within a development team is face-to-face conversation. Interesting here in light of all the conversation about online conversation and communication. So probably be interesting to actually test how well do teams can be productive with sort of digital face-to-face interaction rather than actually physical presence. I noticed that I'm going over all of these, but kind of quickly. So working software is how you measure progress. Agile processes promote sustainable development, supposedly. Continuous attention to technical excellence, simplicity. The best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. So it's an interesting thing about agile developments too. They let the team sort of more self-organized. At regular intervals, team reflects on how to become more effective. This iterative also pauses for reflection are characteristic of it, which are important. There's something called about extreme program in agile models, and this has heavy customer involvement, continuous unit testing. Also, something called pair programming, where there's a driver and a navigator. So there's two people programming, but one writes the code and then the other one kind of watches for errors. This has short iteration cycles and frequent releases. Extreme programming, I'm not that familiar with this one, but you can look more into it and you may be involved in activities that employ it. There's four main activities: designing, coding, testing, and listening. So kind of like all the ones in the basic agile framework as well. And there's more in the textbook that we're following. The one of the most famous agile methodologies, or we can think of it also as a philosophies or a set of processes, is a kind of standardized set of processes. It's called Scrum, and it consists of a small team that is unified around a single goal and gets together for sprints of development that move them towards that goal. The teams have no more than 10 people usually. There's a product owner role, which generates the requirements. These are not necessarily, and probably not the client directly, although the client can identify who the product owner is. The product owner is somebody designated to communicate with the business side. And when I say business side, I mean the organization side, the organizational requirements, and the developers to understand and make sure that the requirements are being met. Scrum Master role manages backlogs, run meetings, coach team, and development team members. Members dedicated to delivering working project at the end of every sprint. So the work is divided in sprints. Sprint is the iteration of between 1 and 4 weeks where the development is happening. There are Scrum meetings, sprint artifacts, the items that are used to be the sources and the consequences of the development work, and the sprint flow. So let's take a look at this whole process here in an image here from scrum.org. We have, well, you can begin sort of anywhere, sprint planning, then the sprint backlog that is kind of added into the list of activities and goes into the Scrum team. Scrum team can lead to increments. There's a review and kind of goes around it. Actually, I'm not sure if this is the best framework for Scrum that I've seen, but it's a good one. And then notice that from sprint review, you can go to sprint review can go this way here, back to sprint planning, or you can go here to product backlog, which is just a list of the requirements of the activities to be done. Now notice there's a sprint backlog here, and then there's a product backlog. So the whole product backlog is the whole list, and then the sprint is the section of it that will be worked on a sprint, which is a chunk or piece of activities set for a team to complete. Scrum and Agile is considered a kind of lean software development, and that it helps eliminate waste, continue to make improvements in the whole process, build quality applications, and fix problems as they find them, build quality in. So just fix as problems as soon as you find them, rather than letting them build up. Create knowledge, that is constantly creating new knowledge and understanding requirements and being open to change. Defer commitment, put off decisions as long as possible. Maybe sounds bad, but it can help not to actually solidify issues that may become things that may be issues later. Deliver fast. We talked about that. Respect people, build strong teams, and optimize the whole process. Keep entire project in mind as you develop. Okay, next we'll be talking about requirements.